Well, nobody really has, in my opinion, a better pulse on the world's 6 billion people and what they're thinking than today's special guest. Why? Because the Gallup World Poll connects with 10 million people every day who lead, govern, and manage the world. And the Gallup poll has pledged to stay connected to their opinions for 100 years in more than 160 countries to determine the well-being, or perhaps even the soul, of a country, a city, or a culture. I heard today's speaker 3 years ago, or maybe a little more than 3 years ago, but he was discussing a projection that was done by economists that talked about where 3 countries would be ranked by their GDP. And those countries, and this was over a 30-year period, those countries were Japan, Germany, and the US. And those economists, with a great deal of statistics and information, ranked the countries, projecting ahead 30 years, that the countries would rank Japan, Germany, and the US. They made a large rounding error. And that error was the inability to calculate entrepreneurship and innovation. And that error represented over $10 trillion. So at the same presentation, I heard the speaker talk about a subject that honestly is near and dear to my heart as well. And so now, this is the time I need to make a confession. I confess, I am extraordinarily biased. I believe that business is the most critical force in the world today. It is what ushers in social, economic, and political change. It's what raises people around the world, men, women, and children, out of poverty. So Gallup's global data collection effort has now documented that the single most searing, clarifying, world-altering fact that the whole world wants more than anything else a good job. I felt validated by the book and by our speaker's comments, The Coming Job Wars. It confirmed my observations and my passions that jobs are indeed the most critical force in the world, and as if we Americans want to remain number one in the world, we've got to do something about it now. So I know you all have heard that as a U.S. ambassador, there were 3 critical elements to successful diplomacy: protocol, geritol, and alcohol. So the 3 critical elements to keeping the United States number one, which you'll hear today, is 100 cities with the top 100 global leaders, or local leaders in each city, and the engagement and the excellence, continuing excellence, of our 100 top universities. Now, perhaps it sounds extreme, but today's guest says that the war for global jobs is like World War II, a war for all the marbles. The global war for jobs determines the leader of the free world. If the United States allows China or any other country or region to out-enterprise it, to out-job create it, to outgrow its GDP, everything changes. Yes, the stakes are high. Today's guest says we're heading into an all-out global war for jobs. Right now, there are 1.2 billion full-time formal jobs in the world, and there are 3 billion people looking for them. If you were to ask today's guest, from all the world polling Gallup has done for over 75 years, what would fix the world? What would suddenly create worldwide peace, global well-being, and the next extraordinary advancements in human development? He would say 1.8 billion, not million, billion jobs, formal jobs. So Reinhold Niebuhr said that nothing great can be achieved in our lifetime. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Nothing, no matter how virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by faith, hope, faith, and love. Let me just say, as the chairman of the American Red Cross, I have seen love, faith, hope at work in the Darfur refugee camps, in Chad, in Ethiopia, in Madagascar, and most recently in Haiti. I will never forget the woman who pulled on my sleeve and through an interpreter said, "Thank God for the Red Cross, but I have 10 children. I need a job." So I present to you today, and I think just remembering that creating jobs does indeed create dignity of purpose. It creates intellectual and creative relationships, and in many cases, colleagues for life. And I think it's also doing the most critical work. So today I present to you the son of Don and Shirley, the husband of Susan, the father of Nicole, Jonathan, and Jackie, the author of The Coming Job Wars, the CEO and chairman of the Gallup organization, and my friend, Jim Clifton.
Bonnie covered about half my material, so I'm going to go for about 10 minutes and then throw it open for questions. Hey guys, I'm sort of a frustrated speaker. I'm actually a CEO. I'm not supposed to be outside the office. I had to sneak out to come here. Nobody knows I'm here. I wrote that book just out of kind of frustration, and I think it had something to do with when I turned 60 years of age. Started looking back on the last 30 years, what a great run it was. I started looking forward to the next 30 years, and I wasn't sure it was going to be a great run. And I went into my own kind of therapy in my den in Washington, and we sell a lot of books. One said, sorry about this term, but I said, I'm not writing a book. I don't write. I'm supposed to have this job. But he said, vomit it out and we'll fix it. And so that's what I did. But it has a whole bunch of thoughts in it, and I always plan on saying something. Then when I'm sitting there, I don't know why I'm getting this off my chest, I always change it right before I get up here. And then as soon as I'm here, I look down, I go, gee, I wish I hadn't changed it, but I don't have the other notes. We did a lot of research to do let me just lay a thought. There's a lot of big leaders in the room. Here's something to watch out for. When you have your premises wrong and you go out and lead, the more you lead, the worse you make things. Most people don't know that. But that's why it's so important that you have a few fundamentals that you know are right. Put in a strategy and then build off that. With an open mind, much people from the right and the left, we try to figure some things out. I'll just lay a few of them on you, and then we'll have dessert or whatever we're going to do here. But so our founder is Dr. George Gallup, but he had a great line where he said, if democracy is about the will of the people, then somebody should go find out what that will is. And you got to make sure you heard it just right. He said, go find out what that will is. Because politicians in Washington always say, I'm going to do what's right, I'm not going to vote the Gallup poll. Well, Dr. Gallup didn't say, determine what the will of America is, then go vote it. He believed in representation. But what he didn't think was a good idea is if you were wrong about what they were thinking. I've been a CEO for 23 years, but I started as an interviewer a long time ago, and I've had the same job. I tell you, every time we go into a dive and figure out what's on the minds of some population in the United States, some population somewhere in the world, hell, always surprised you, and the leaders never knew. But it's hard to serve constituencies, and you drive people crazy when you're not right about those things. So Dr. Gallup was kind of a lousy businessman. He was really an academic. He was more like Einstein, kind of walking around on Princeton campus with a black cape and a hat and a cane, just trying to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. He loved democracy, but he said democracy is not going to keep going unless we know what the great American dream is. So that's what he did. He got up every morning trying to figure out what the great American dream is. But I'm just going to cut to the chase. So he started that 75 years ago. What the great American dream has been, it started out as peace, praying to the God that you wanted to, freedom, having a family, and then it just changed. And it'll seem subtle to you, but it changed to having a good job. But it's a huge sociological shift that happened in this country first of all. Here's why it's a huge sociological shift. When you get up in the morning, 300 million Americans, kind of 100 million work in the workplace, and that's what's on top of your mind. All the things in Mother Nature change. Here's one. You get married later in life. That changes everything, just that one. Or you don't get married at all. That changes the fabric of our whole country. You have fewer kids. Or you don't have any kids at all. But see, if the sociological shift hadn't happened to having a good job, everything would be different again. We'd have a whole different kind of family unit. Here's something else. It changes who you vote for. So whether or not we re-elect President Obama, or whether or not we elect Mitt, or somebody can upset him, will come down to just my relationship with my job. Here's another thing that changes, and this is a good mirror for everybody here. It really changes migration patterns. So people are getting up, we're still walking. We've been walking for 200,000 years. I don't know if you get I don't know if this is interesting mind candy, but this kind of stuff freaks me out. But we probably started walking about 200,000 years ago, somewhere on the Savannah Plains, around Ethiopia or whatever, following herds of animals. Then we went to agriculture and eventually to ports, you see. But because the new will, not only in the United States, but now it's spread all around the world, is to have a good job, it changes where we're walking, and we've actually speeded up. So there's 7 billion people in the world. We show about 1 billion of them want to get the hell out of Dodge. They want to get out of their country and get somewhere else. But you see how the will changes almost everything that we're doing? So this one's really important. It also changes how you need to manage people. Most of you have 10 people reporting to you. In the old days, those were just salary people. Do you know what that is? I don't pronounce it, man. There used to be a salary man. And if you don't know what that is, those are guys that just came in. I say guys, I never saw any women when I saw the pictures. They sat down, they got $16,000 a year or something, They filled out a paper. They had no relationship, no pride, no mission, or purpose in that job whatsoever. They were salarymen. Now, if you want a visual, when you're watching the World Series and they show Yankee Stadium, you know, like when Babe Ruth hits, then he has those little big steps when he runs around, look into the crowd. And it's all men. Bonnie, I don't see any women in there. All men in exactly the same suits, white shirts, a black skinny tie, they had those hats, all those matching hats. And if you look even closer, every one of them has a cigarette. And I think it's either a Pall Mall or a Winston, something like that. Those are all salary people that don't identify their relationship to their family, their neighborhood, their city, their state, their country, the world by their job. And now all that's changed, and now they do. So that means when your 10 people come to work, it doesn't matter how big the company is, we all have about 10. So Gallup's pretty big. I only have 10 people to report to me. But when they show up to work, they're asking, how do you take me? What's my role here? Do I have a mission and purpose? Am I doing something that might change my country, that might change my city, that might change the world? So it's a big sociological change, my job. Okay. Excuse me. So that's one domain that you need to know in all the strategies that you have here for your city. Okay. As Bonnie was saying, one of the things kind of bothered me, this was 30 years ago, but I'll do this real fast. I was watching TV in that panel of economists, and the economists were saying where the United States would be in 30 years, where the world would be in 30 years. It just blew me away. A lot of people talking about it. Nobody really wrote it down. But they said that because of inferior manufacturing, the United States would fall third. That's right now. So let's see how they did. Bonnie said, they said Japan would be first, Europe second, United States third. We were supposed to be at about 3.8 trillion right now. That's just doing a real nice linear regression. Just put you right there. You guys, if this GDP were at 15, if this GDP was 3.8 trillion, you would not believe how this society and civilization of people in the United States of America would be different. I mean, we wouldn't have anything. Now, I want to give there'll be some math nerds in the crowd here. But over that 30 years, the line was supposed to go like this, the 3.8. Germany's 4, here. Ours vote up like that. If you add the stubs of the overperformance each year to 15, it equals $100 trillion. Now you finally have a big number. I don't know, I was telling Bonnie's group this morning, you live in Washington, I don't even know what a big number is anymore. Billions or millions or trillions. 100 trillion is a big number. But you see what's happened as a tribe of people over the last 30 years? We've been able to throw money at everything. I mean, God bless $100 trillion. Sometimes I hear people say, are we an exceptional tribe of people, Americans? Are you kidding? The whole world is $60 trillion of stuff. Remember, that's like sales, right? So whatever the sales of your company is, the sales of the United States is 15 trillion, the whole world 60. There's only 300 million of us, only 100 million of us that have regular jobs. And we got 25% of the whole, I mean, if this was a basketball tournament, we just blew the whole place away, 100 to 10. So, people always wonder about military. You know how much we spend on military? Fine with me, by the way. I love our military. But it's $800 billion a year to just have all this stuff. Now, if you want to mix it up and have a little bit of war, like in Iraq and Afghanistan, they add that kind of on like a tip. That's about $200 billion. It's $1 trillion. That's what we have to spend on the military. Now, I want to always put this in perspective. You know the evil empire in Russia? You know what their GDP, their sales is for their whole country? 1 trillion. People think they're kind of like the United States. They don't have anything. We're 15 times bigger than they are, and our population isn't even much bigger. We spend the same amount on that great big neat military that they have for everything. India has over 1 billion people. Their GDP is 1 trillion. They have 1 trillion for 1 billion people. We spend the exact same amount as that whole civilization of people have, you know, to feed and do all their stuff when you add it all together. By the way, there are a couple of generals who were over at Gallup, and I won't say names, you know them, but anyway, I said to him, what is the mission and purpose of the military? And that's fine, that's all I need right there. I said, so we spend $1 trillion a year, which I'm all for, but what is that, what can I write down that gets us? And it was a bone-chilling moment in Washington, but they said, what that gets us is if there is all-out world war on 3 fronts, that's the guarantee, on 3 fronts, that they can totally annihilate the enemy in the first 24 hours. That's what you get for $1 trillion. So that means if we suddenly went all-out war with China, Russia, who the third? Canada? They seem pretty impressed up there. We ought to just go free them, you know. But you see that the amount of money that we've had for that, for healthcare, for universities, for institutions, has been absolutely colossal. And that's why when people wonder about it for exceptional, nobody in the world wants to hear, Bonnie, you go around the world, a whole bunch of people do. We all have to be so careful, because what's happened here, you are crazy if you think this wasn't exceptional. You're either hallucinating or whatever. So that's where we are right now. The reason I am in therapy, I guess now, is because it's deja vu all over again. So here we are, and I put together a group of economists, the very best ones, and I said, you guys, tell me where the United States is going to be in 30 years. And I averaged it. So they said that the United States is at 15, and in 30 years, 3 of the outliers out, and we're going to be at 30 trillion. We're going to go to 15 to 30. Sounds okay? It's not. It doesn't work. That's 2.5% increase over those 30 years. Next question is, where's China going to be? Even if you use something comfortable like 8.5%, it puts them at 60 to 80 trillion. So in 30 years, their relationship to GDP, their geopolitical, which is a non-just term for just foreign affairs and foreign relations, will be more disproportionate to the total world than ours is now. And I don't know why, but Americans will just sit around and say, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, China, they got this, they got that. We don't have this, they can do this, we can't do this, and all that. What it means is we're all going into the playoff game of our lives, and we're going to lose. That doesn't seem very American to me. I don't think we will lose it. I'm positive we won't, because China has so many problems that they'll never get through. But we've got to have our premises right here, or hell could be coming. Well, if you don't want to hear hell, I don't know if there's any people from other countries here or not. Forget about the word hell. Our relationship with the rest of the world, the influence that we have, will change very much. Just Bonnie, you just because you like, I told this spontaneously, but to her group, but I was. It's not just military. I don't think military is the big influence we have. I think it's economic. But I was at a dinner somewhere on the Constitution, but there was a guy from the State Department, and he had a tuxedo on. And I'm going to say this, he looked kind of weird. That's nothing about that. But I said, the reason I told you that, I wish I hadn't, was because what he does for the State Department kind of surprised me. I said, he said, I'm a lawyer for the State Department. I said, what do you do? He says, I negotiate treaties. Well, that sounds pretty good. I said, well, tell me, have you negotiated one recently? And he went, oh yeah, I just got a really good one. I said, well, tell me, where were you? He goes, well, down in Bolivia. And you guys don't believe in hate. They're like worse than Chavez and Venezuela. They're all tied into that mess. And he said, went down. He said, I said, what did he? So he negotiates extradition and just our relationships on trade openings. But anyway, I said, what did you want? He went, well, I wanted this. And I said, well, I'm going to give you any of those. Right? They went, oh, They said no to every single one of them. And he said it only took him 10 days to get this damn thing done, too. Which is, you're not going to get anything done in 10 days. And I said, well, how did you get it done in 10 days? He goes, well, I told him that unless they agreed to him, that we were going to shut off all their aid, we were going to shut these ports off, we were going to shut down their credit lines, basically just turn the lights off in their country. And I said, well, what happened? He went, well, they said yes. But that's something that we tend to take for granted. But whatever happened during this last 30 years, which was an unbelievable bull run, and something I think that made the whole world better. We're right in that same place right now. And whatever happened in that arc up, nobody saw coming, we need that again. We got to put that in a bottle and somehow open a can of that for the next 30 years, or my kids and those people that you read off there are going to have a different America. Now, I'm watching my clock here, so. This one is so important. Maybe this will be the only one I'll lay on you, and I have to be careful because I get stuff thrown at me sometimes when I say this by friends. But I think we've overrated innovation. That's just the thing I want to leave you with that. I want to make sure if you learn anything from this material that Gallup has, you need to know that one. It's not that innovation's wrong, nobody's against it, any of that. It has the wrong responsibility. So what we do is we say we need jobs, we need to grow, so what we do is we spend billions and billions and billions on innovation. Innovation is the extension of intellectual strength, and we just keep building it and building it. And we don't get any jobs out of it. I just saw it before I left town that the new budget has $150 billion for innovation. So another $150 billion. Now, if that worked, I'm all for the $150 billion. But there's no jobs coming out at all. Here's what nobody knows. Nobody in the world knows this. They don't write it down. Americans don't know it. Nobody in Washington knows it. Innovation has no value whatsoever until a customer is standing next to it. Nobody knows that. They also don't know that this thing is a cart and a horse. And the cart is innovation, and you want that thing full. But the horse is definitely entrepreneurship and enterprise. But without it, the other one has no value. But what we've done as a civilization, I don't know why as leaders, but the great big multicolored chips that we're betting on our hand, we pushed them all to innovation. And so now we've got innovation just going right through the roof. What I think is interesting, you notice all the other countries emulate us? You did the Doha or Saudi Arabia, they're building great big buildings of innovation. John's been there. You just see through them. There's nothing in there at all. There's nothing coming out of there. I mean, there's going to be a job that comes out of there in 50 years. There's also no innovation coming out of the things either. If you read the book, you know this, but I love this guy, Vince Cerf. He's just walking around in Washington. This is so human, I mean, just person to person. But he's sitting in Washington, works for the Defense Department. I'll speed this up. He built the internet sitting there. He got packets of fly across fiber optic lines. He's just sitting there with his own internet, talking to people. And so then if there's a bombing or whatever, he can do it. That internet is sitting right there. By the way, if it wasn't for the internet, there's no way that the future thing. If you wanted to say what happened between Japan, we invented and commercialized the internet in Japan. Japan surely did. They just want to roast it over simplified. But Vin is sitting there, has that thing invented, and remember, no jobs, no commerce, no nothing coming off of it. Vin will tell you this story himself. A guy from the U.S. Senate came over and said, let me see what you're doing. This senator loved technology. Vin showed it to him, and he said, hey, why don't we take that and throw that out into the commercial world and see what they can make out of it. Vin told me this at dinner, me here, him there, his wife here, my wife here,
Didn't hear something, not hearsay or anything else. He said back to the U.S. Senator, fine with me, but I don't see what value they'll have for it. That's a discussion about the internet and really the whole future of America and the world. That one conversation. The man said fine. So he went back and passed something called the blah, 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 blah. By the way, you know the senator? It's Al Gore. I don't even like him. I tell a great story about it. Nobody likes it, you know. But you know, if you got a Nobel Prize, if you're going to give him a Nobel Prize or something, give it to him for that day he went over to see Vint. But then what happened is it went out there and then masterfully commercialized. I was sitting in my office in Washington, and the phone rings about 9 o'clock. You must know Deborah Wood Smith. Deborah, she's got a lot of stuff on me. Not that kind of stuff, but on face. Somebody better run me to the airport and get me out here. But anyway, she said, will you come over and I need you to give a talk on, to a group over the Academy of Sciences. And I said, yeah, when is it? She goes, in an hour and a half. I said, yeah, I said, I'll shuffle around. I said, I'll get over. I said, did somebody cancel? What am I filming? Am I filling in or what? She goes, no. She goes, it's the heads of the American best labs. We're having a conference. I want you to come over and tell them your theory on that innovation is overrated. And so it's the president of, and these are really good people, by the way. There's only about 40 of them, but it's the president or CEO or executive director of NASA, NIH, CDC, MIT. And by the way, when you have that group in there, there's no richer innovation in the world. Nobody's even close. Not even second when you got that group in there, institutions in there. So anyway, I said, listen, you guys, I said, Deborah's tipped you off. I said, I just have a question for you. How many of you have inventions in your labs right now that just need business models and customers? Every hand went up. Every one of them. One guy said, I've got an invention now in my labs that's bigger than the internet. So you say, well, then we must need more innovation. No, we don't. We need somebody to come over and say, why don't we throw that out into commercialization? But if we don't start figuring out how to make entrepreneurship more intentional, we won't fix this. If we do, then I think we'll come back and win the playoff game of our lives. I want to explain something to you. You might say, how did we get here? We are so good at intellectual development. Now, sometimes you hear about public schools aren't good and all that kind of thing. That's just that bottom group. Education in this country is still the best in the world. By the way, I was looking at that. The Economist listed the 30 best MBA schools. 20 are in the United States, 9 in Europe, 1 in Canada. 0 in the Middle East, 0 in Latin America, 0 in China, 0 in India. We have testing that knows how to find smart people anywhere. No matter where you are, you can be out in the sandhills of Nebraska, you can be in New Orleans, and somehow that'll prick up and we'll see, hey, that guy's got, it's really IQ. Then somehow we get ranked at the best universities, so they end up at MIT, and we go into Nassau. We are masters of that high-end ivory tower intellectual development. Nobody's close. But here's the deal. If you take 1,000 kids, and I don't know if they're in college or high school, right? It doesn't matter. But if you have educational psychologists say, line them up by IQ. They'll just line them up 1 to 1,000, and there'll be real high agreement. They'll all say, yep, that's the smartest one, that's the dumbest, and that's the right one. Because we have mastered the development of intellectual strength. I mean, beyond everybody else. I've often wondered if it's kind of like the hammer and the nail thing. How does that go if you're a hammer, everything's a nail, or something like that? So we just keep coming back to intellectual strength. But so we will always dominate the innovation wars. But here's the thing. If you said, those same 1,000 kids, because that's what you need in Greensboro, that's what you need in Omaha, that's what we need in Dallas and everywhere else, line them up by their ability to enterprise. Line them up by their natural skill as an entrepreneur. Line them up by their ability to create a business model. Line Line them up by their ability to create a customer. And you know what? Those same educational psychologists, it's a great big argument. Nobody knows. They don't know if it's a gift, they don't know if it's trained. Some people will say, hey, you can train entrepreneurship just like you train somebody to drive a car. Somebody else will say, no, it's as rare as singing talent, or as some kind of great gift like that. But until we can make that science more intentional, we won't have the spectacular GDP growth that we need to go ahead. I'll try to make this point quickly. When somebody says, how are we doing in the United States? Don't do it that way as leaders. The variation between cities is unbelievable. And that's why you got a lot of thinking, a lot of strategic work that you have to do here. Cities perform differently. By the way, researchers always like twins separated at birth. Two that are kind of close. Texas is a big state, New York is a big state. Their capitals make no sense. Albany in New York, Austin in Texas. They don't make any sense. They're both kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's no seaport. There's no nothing. Austin has unbelievable, unstoppable energy. Free enterprise is going crazy. They got arts, they got everything. It's just everybody wants to get to Austin. Albany is a colossal bust. But you see what I mean? Unless you start with that premise, the more you lead, the more. But what's the difference? The difference is local leadership. Local leadership made a real difference in Austin. I'm from the Midwest. Two that I really like are Sioux City and Sioux Falls. You know those two towns? Those are twins separated at birth. They have kind of the same name. I get them mixed up. I don't know which one I'm in when I'm in one of them. But one of them is the beautiful sister, that's Sioux Falls. Magnificent health care, growing GDP, unemployment is like 4%. City leaders in Sioux City, nobody's here, keep this here. But it's a city from hell. They have, it's peep shows and casinos and strip joints everything was the same, but just strategies and city leadership made a difference. One city became a spectacular success, the other one a spectacular failure. You guys, this never stops, but that's one of the nice things about being 60. 40 years ago, the richest city in the world was what? Detroit. That was Paris of North America. And they, not just Motown, they had all kinds of music stuff coming out of there. I mean, it looked like the most unstoppable great city in the world. Now it's probably the worst big city at least in the United States. At the same time, you want to know two cities that were up to nothing, and the hyenas have really taken this place over? I was using Lion King right then. It's San Francisco and New York. When I would land in New York, just a little over 30 years ago, you would go to your hotel, they would tell you, do not go outside at night. Same thing in San Francisco, because they were those towns were that gone. Now, New York is arguably the greatest city in the country, and you could argue that San Francisco and Silicon Valley saved our country, while Detroit crashed. Well, what's the difference? The difference is leadership, having the right domains, having the right assumptions, having strategies, and having leaders that really care. Cities. Just the last thing just for you to think about. And this is such a big mistake. But President Obama doesn't ask me for my opinions. Some of his advisors do. And I told them that they got everything exactly backwards. What they think is American free enterprise is trying to create jobs. What can we do to build fiscal tools to get people to create jobs? There are 6 million businesses in the United States of America. I'm a CEO, you're a CEO, there's a bunch of us in here. All sizes, 6 million. Not one CEO got up this morning and said, how can I create some jobs? Only the enterprisers in here will know this. So I don't mean we pull them all the time, but that's zero. If you said, what are they thinking about that they have in common? When they wake up in the morning, every one of them is thinking how they can create a customer. See how different that is? People think that customer, I don't want to pick on the administration of Congress, or left side of the aisle, or right side of the aisle. What they think is that customers follow jobs. It's exactly the other way. Jobs follow customers. We won a project for several million, some kind of things like we do this kind of consulting stuff. But anyway, I called our COO and I asked her, how many jobs does that create? She got to get back to me. She called back. She said, 50. I was part of the team. There wasn't anybody that cared at all. We're a nice caring company and great Americans at Gallup. None of us, there was never a discussion anyplace about creating a job. We created 50. That wasn't on any of the PowerPoints or anything I saw. But boy, people were working like crazy to win the customer. But if we think this is a jobs war, which is what I named the book, it is a jobs war. But if we think by using fiscal tools, such as you get $4,000 if you tax rebate if you hire somebody. Anybody have 10 employees? I've had 10 employees before. When you hire one person, hell, that's like a merger. You check with your banker, you check with your spouse, you talk to your administrator. I might hire this guy. Can you imagine Washington telling you to give you a $4,000 rebate? But there's also the image of Washington, what they have on the 6 million people, is really a part of all these strategies too. And also the image that you have in this town, in this triad, and in this state. Because the more juiced those small business people are, the more likely you are to have a colossal success here. So I'm going to stop right there. Bonnie, thank you for having me here. Walker, thank you for the tour and all that. You and I keep talking. I'll keep getting the ideas as fast as I can. You guys, I do want to end with this. I'm 100% sure the playoff game of our lives, we're gonna win. There's something about Americans where when we get knocked down, we just can't really do it right until we get knocked on our butts and then jump back up again. But I think that's what you see us doing right now. Thank you very much.